So, thank you for inviting me here. And my job was to tell you something what I know about green trends around the globe. It's not 100% what I know a little bit. And I try to sort of give you some thoughts about it. And it's your own task actually to put these pieces together. And I think pictures become different from depending on the angle you are looking at these. The company I'm currently working is basically a global think tank and the leader of complex projects. But this is not what I wanted to talk to you here. Perspectives that I'm going to give you are different. And the first one is about the money and the story. We know that this kind of green story has been going around for about 20 years, I think. And people have expected that there is going to be a bubble or bubbles coming out from that field, and there will be a bubble, certainly. And many people will get rich also. And how to look at this green, and these are very many different angles. And the IT angle that Linnar was talking was just kind of one. If we look from a capital perspective, then we see that the boom time where capital is invested into clean tech is not over, but it's kind of 30% down. And we see also that generalist funds are not investing in clean tech anymore. These are specialist funds who target on certain areas, and we have certain competencies in investing into these areas. And the reason why it's 30% down, deals are smaller, the reason is that basically it's too expensive to go into these areas. People have underestimated the time, how long it takes to get to the market or take to IPO or to sales one certain technology. And we have seen also that people tend to go from basic technologies, especially venture capitalists, from basic technologies into more sort of energy efficiency side. Basically where you can actually apply different existing technologies already into the process of energy production or distribution in order to make it more efficient, and then you can find out more sort of profitable and cheaper businesses from this area. Of course, there are ABB and others who are still investing in hardcore basic technologies. But this is what the venture capital map is showing. And one certain thing which is going down is investments into solar, which is basically an absolute number of investments into green tech, and from that number, so the decline is not taken into account here. But within the stock of investments, you see that solar is declining. Others are steadily kind of growing. So different countries across the globe have sort of clean world stories. If we think Denmark, I mean, clean energy equals Denmark. If we're talking about water technologies, then we know that certain Scandinavian countries are strong, as well as Singapore, for example. Country with no clean water, but we have developed technologies how to get clean water, how to take salt out from the ocean water, how to distillate recycled water, etc. And they want to be water independent by, I think, 2064 or something. Okay, let's continue. I was talking about a few countries which have some sort of stories related to green. Of course, across the globe, we know green banks and etc. Most of people like to put the mark green, but in reality, they are not green. It's just a kind of to get fame. But Estonia has also one green story. Do you know what it is? Actually, yes. Actually, Skype got Tree Huggers award a few years back when we had this ash cloud and nobody could fly, and they were using Skype. And that's why it was considered the greenest company. But this Skype is one, but one else. Last year, that event or that thing got 2/3 of the kind of clicks what the London Olympic Games got. Olympic Games got, if you go to Google and put in London Olympic 2012, you get like 125 million hits. But that one got like 86 million hits. World Cleanup 2012. So basically, Let's Do It World event last year, where where 96 countries are cleaning and about 7 million people. And this was only in English and online. It didn't count offline media as well as local languages. So we do have our own story as well. If you go to transport, another angle of green economy, when I'm a fan of motorbikes, and I do know that where it was kind of 1st of September 2009 where with Mission 1 electricity bike got basically was able to drive 150 miles and maximum speed 150 miles per hour. It means that it basically equals to ordinary motorbike. The only thing is sound. If you want to get sound out of it, it takes more electricity. So, but that company went to bankruptcy. Or it didn't went to bankruptcy, or didn't go to bankruptcy, but it does different things now. But the bike itself was, the price of that was like $70,000 US. And the company is from Silicon Valley, actually. And now it's producing different equipment for electricity cars. But this is one thing. But another thing is this type of small bikes, different kind of motorollerid, eesti keeles. The market of these in year 2016 is something like 79 million pieces. And the growth of market is 9% annually. I don't know where that growth comes geographically. Asia, basically. Something like 96% from Asia. Something like 1-point-something million will be sold in Europe, and then the other rest in Asia. So you have to understand the market, or where a market lies. And this is one kind of cool thing, but there are very simple, basically, electricity bicycles in China, if you go to China, for example, or India as well. What is also true from a transport perspective, that technologies do not replace other technologies. But it's more like systems are replacing systems. If you take, for example, Edison, I mean, he didn't invent the bulb itself, the lamp bulb, but he invented also the network, and he tested it in, do you know where? Yeah, in Manhattan. So you had big concentration enough, and people were working long days, and you had an opportunity to test it. So basically, he invited the whole network, not just the bulb itself. And the same is with electric cars, etc. I mean, what are going to be the standards for batteries? How are you going to change them? There is one pilot done in Israel, where they claim that they can replace, basically they're renting batteries to you, and they can change it 3 times faster when you tank your car. But the only question is this going to be the standard? Are all cars going to be using it? What about the electricity networks? How are we able to kind of charge these, etc.? Also, from a land economics perspective, we have to understand what's feasible to do. I mean, there's a small kind of graph about if I'm driving alone from Pirita to city center, I need 60 square meters of land for my own car permanently. If I would walk, it's 0.8 square meters. If I would come by train, there is no train from Pirita, but I would take like 2.2 square meters. So this is the point that if you can push all the people using buses and trams, I mean, you can basically get rid of wasted land to other transport, types of transport. So this is the logic behind what you use in cities, etc. And also, I mean, one picture, I mean, few people might know what it is. Basically, it's a city center of Singapore. It's man-made center. I mean, it's reclaimed land from the sea. But what was my claim here is that within that city center, they have also Formula 1 track. So if you think logically and if you play everything through, I mean, you can get high concentrations and it's highly efficient. So another angle would be new integrated business models. If we're talking about aging societies, running out of fuel, oil, global warming, world running out of water, I mean, all these things are kind of complex issues. These are not simple issues which can be solved by one particular scientific area, for example. Take, for example, that water thing. I mean, 70% around the globe, nations have some sort of water problems. 70 countries from 190-something which UN has. And the greener the spot, the bigger problem water is. So it's a global problem, but how are you going to solve it? I mean, is it geological problem? Is it political problem? Is it an ethical problem? I mean, is it human right to have water? Is it a business problem? So it's a complex issue, and that's why you need also integrated solutions from university side, both from sciences as well as from education. And that's why you need cross-disciplinary education, and that's why also, partly that's why Aalto University was created in Helsinki, where we put Design University, Kauppakõrgu Koulu, School of Business and Economics, as well as University of Technology into one university to have more of these integrated programs. From an integration perspective, another issue is that if we're talking about green, that typically it's that clients need to pay more, there are smaller profits, there are heavy kind of government subsidies, we win that game, and it's not really profitable without these subsidies. So that's why some people are talking about the blue economy. I mean, blue because of Mother Earth has more blue spots than green spots, that's why they claim it blue economy, but basically we're talking about multiple business models where there are more places where you can get value out from a value chain, not compared to just selling something at the end of the chain. And one of these examples is that is actually coffee value chain. If you're talking about coffee, then 2% of coffee is used from a whole coffee. I mean, 98% is waste. Half of this waste are plants, and they remain in the developed world where coffee is grown, and then the other is grouts, and it's basically lying around us. And this is waste currently. But people started to grow mushrooms on top of that, these old plants in Africa. And they claim that they can generate 50 million jobs out from that they are growing these mushrooms. So you solve different things and you get more money out from that value chain than compared to just drinking coffee. And there are other value chains as well. If you put silk instead of stainless steel in this shaving equipment, you can, I think it's something like 250 tons of stainless steel left if you use silk instead of metal in one of shavers. So basically how to get more from a value chain. And all these things together enter to what Philips call it, that we are moving away from techno-market area into more like socio-ecological area, and from business-wise as well. So it becomes much more complex if you are really talking about what that green is. From a consumption perspective, this is a world how people live. I mean, that small quadrant is 1 million inhabitants. And you see that Asia is relatively dominant. But if you look how the consumption world looks like, you see that there are basically 3 big spots where things are consumed now. Here are the people, and here is consumption in terms of GDP per capita. So the problem is that the rich world is consuming 4 times more than it can if everybody would consume at the same level across the globe. So what to do? What's the kind of new lifestyle is? I mean, we don't have intelligence also what it is. I mean, how many trousers I can use annually? How many kilometers can I drive? How many cars should I have in 10 years? We don't know it. And before we can kind of start spreading kind of stories about new lifestyle, etc., I mean, we have to have intelligence, broadly what it is. And how cities should be created to be sustainable, to equal to what. We had one brainstorm once about the new lifestyle, consumption 2.0, happiness 2.0, what it would be. And people described that happiness is not universal. It depends on where you are from, who you are, where you live, etc. What is sure is it's not consume not what you want, but what you need. One kind of always think what's good, not just what's good for me, but also what's good for my society. Also, that happiness is not to consume more. I mean, people want to buy us more sunglasses. If you don't have new sunglasses, I mean, you are kind of who you are. So basically, all the kind of production side pushes us to consume more, new laptop, etc. But it's not about to consume more, but actually it's more about personal contacts and about the community where you are, which really means are you happy or not. It's not that how many things you have. So this is the different perspective about if we are talking about the new lifestyle. And in this case, we are talking about the culture. And you need kind of some rules of the game, symbols, norms, mindset, leaders, etc., if you really want to change mindsets of people. And we know also that changing mindset or overall change management it's not a communication thing. That it's not that. It's about behavioral change if you really want to change culture, and it's not that somebody says somebody that actually you need to do this or that. It's about cultural change, and then people say that we are in the business of infection, not the business of broadcasting from that perspective. And how to sort of kind of, if we're talking about greening the world and making it more sustainable. So this is the kind of philosophy, at least how I think behind that. And the final topic would be zero waste. People are talking about zero waste, but what it is? It is that should I do something with my mobile phone after I have used it? What can I do with that? But actually there is other side of a coin as well. For example, this is a toothbrush. How much waste is generated in producing that toothbrush? What do you think? How many kilos or tons? Any ideas? Okay, 1.5 kilos of things used before to get that toothbrush, not what to do afterwards with that toothbrush. Now take mobile phone, simple mobile phone, not that one. What do you think? How much waste is generated in producing that phone? How much? 10 kilos. Any other ideas? 300. So somewhere in between, 75 kilos. But let's take a car, average consumer car, 1 ton of a car itself. What do you think? I'm not selling minis, but I like minis. But what do you think on average? 1 ton consumer car. Any ideas? 1 ton. So 1 ton equals, okay. Any other ideas? Well, 62 tons of waste to produce 1 ton of car. So this is where the waste is actually generated, not the car itself, but to do with that once it doesn't run anymore. Or let's take a laptop, final thing. How much waste is generated to produce one 2.3 kilogram laptop? Nine tons of waste. It includes also water and other things. This is the point. But say basically, 9 tons to produce 1 laptop. So design matters. How you produce things, not how you recycle them afterwards. And American Business Week wrote that 90% of materials are basically waste from the day one. So as we saw. And the zero waste concept is saying that we are talking about kind of waste management a lot, but we are not talking about rethinking, redesigning the processes, how to avoid that kind of waste which is produced during the production time. And this is in general, in order to solve that, you have to understand what the problem is. If 80% of our time and thinking goes to recycling things today, we're actually not solving the right problem. We are solving a part of a problem, but not the whole problem. And the fundamentals of a problem lie in different places. For example, I mean, one example could be also food value chain across the globe. It's calculated that everybody should have a proper meal, could have a proper meal if food would be distributed equally across the globe, across all kind of 6-point-something billion people. The problem is that it's concentrated in some places, and huge amount of that is waste. And that's why many people don't have any food to eat. So it's a logistical, ethical, economic problem, how to solve that issue, that everybody could be, can be fed. So this is how I think. And if you don't have any ideas in terms of green business yet, then one point could be that people are buying these water lemons, which are developed in squared manner. They pay like $100 in Japan. So if you can start producing this type of watermelons, and you can get rich as well. So it's not too complicated business, but you have to think through what you do and then who your clients are. So thank you from my side.